Welcome to Artistic Adventures. We're going to be working on a wig for our Pullip doll in this video, and anytime you see the word adventure, as in the wig adventure, that means there was a lot of things that went wrong and I had to deal with. So let's get started. So here's our doll head that we have painted from the last video, and I'm going to start by showing you some processes of dyeing hair. Keep in mind, like I said, this is an adventure, but before I do that, I wanted to show you, you can buy these kits to make pull-up dolls instead of buying the actual pull-up doll already done. It has, they have different skin colors. It's called MIO, Make It Own, and you just make it your own. And here's what's inside. Basically, it's just the doll, the eye mechanism, and the head. So you would have to add, you know, the hair and the clothes and paint the face and all that. So these are available. Just do a Google search for MIO pull-up kit and you could probably find them out there. All right, so I have my sort of whitish alpaca fiber here. This is what it looked like before I started working with it. It was fairly raw. Had dirt and oils in it from the animal, and then it was sheared and sent out in a packet, and I pulled these out, combed them with a pet those wire brush for pets. You still have to pick out some of the hay or grass and stuff that's in there, but I have actually washed these pieces too. There's occasional pieces that I have to pull out. So how to color it? Well, there's different ways. You can use the brush and brush it on. Sort of hesitating to do that with these since they're loose hairs. I think it would just pull them out. I'm going to use this. It's called Adore. It's a semi-permanent hair color, and it's in the color aquamarine. So instead of brushing it on and probably pulling fibers out and losing them, I'm going to use the watercolor technique where you put the dye into some warm water, and then you just dip the hair into it and the hair absorbs it. This works for human hair. I've never tried it on doll hair or on alpaca fibers, so we're going to see if this works. And so this is the first part of the adventure. Oh boy, this wig has taken me 2 weeks to make. First of all, this fiber, even though I've washed it, I think it still retains some of the oils from, the animal's natural skin. And by the way, these are from sheared animals. They're not hurt or damaged in any way. Alpacas grow very, very long hair, and they do have to be trimmed. So this is from trimmed alpaca fiber. I noticed that it collected air pockets pretty easily, so it didn't dye very well. And also where I had the string tied, although I did move the string up and down to try to get the dye in there, I don't think it worked very well to dye it like that. So this is what I ended up with. I mean, it's a pretty color, but it's so much lighter than what I had envisioned for this doll. I really wanted a darker blue. So I ordered another color from Amazon. This is a dark sapphire blue. And I have this wig cap for pull-up that I bought from Hello Cool Cat. They're on Etsy, and they might be on eBay too, but I think Etsy is where I got it. Etsy, or however you say that. Anyway, this is a little silicone wig cap, and it fits pretty well on the pull-up doll head. So I thought, oh, this is great. I don't have to make a wig cap. So my idea is I'm going to give her bangs. So I'm going to mark kind of the forward center of the cap to put a plug in so that I can use that to help cover up the glued hair. And I do this with my other wigs where I make the wig cap. If I have lots and lots of wig videos if you want to see that process. I'm going to cut a little hole out here, and then we'll insert a plug of hair, and then that hair will be used to spread out and cover up the top part of the glued ends of the wig that we're attaching, or the fibers that we're attaching. All right, so I'm cutting out this hole, and then you want to get a really good amount of hair. Every time I think I have enough hair, I think, oh, this is way too much hair. And I put it in, it still doesn't really seem to be enough when I start trying to spread it out. So you want to make sure you have a really good, thick amount of hair to do this, because it has to spread around the entire circumference of the wig or it won't look right. And to insert it into the hole, I'm going to use this string. It's actually one of the strings that I dyed from putting it into the dye with the hair. I'm cutting off the frayed edges just so I can get it through the hole easier. So I'm going to take a looped piece of that and put the two ends through the hole. This is how you can get a whole bunch of hair through a tiny hole, or fairly small hole anyway. All right, then you're going to stick your hair through there. Not in the middle, because you're only going to pull through a portion of the hair and leave the longest part on the outside. And then you just pull it through the hole. Pull the thread, and it pulls the hair through. That's pretty neat, easy way to do that. And you can use that same technique with the cloth type wig caps that I've made before, where I'll use like t-shirt type material and then glue it down over the doll's head to make the cap. So I'm pulling it back through to just the amount that I want to see if that looks pretty good. And at this point I think it looks like it's good. So I turned it inside out because I need to glue this bottom part down, but I don't want to glue it near the hole, because if you do, it gets into the fibers on the top of the hair, and then it's glue kind of dries. It's semi-hard and doesn't look good and doesn't feel good. So I'm cutting that off, and then I'm just going to spread this around because I don't want it to be a big lump under there either. I want it to lay flat on her head. So I'm putting the glue kind of far away from the hole near the ends of the fiber, and then just spreading it out in a fan all the way around and gluing it down. And this is kind of where I first start getting an inkling of what's going to happen later on. This was a little hard to glue this down. It kind of kept wanting to pop up. So anyway, I ended up putting a piece of plastic over it so I could put it down on the doll's head, make sure it didn't stick to it, and put a piece of paper towel up under the front part so I didn't get anything on her face. And then I always like to pull that top knot up and get it out of the way. Because anytime the thing about the face is anytime you glue hair, you just never know how it's going to transfer on the skin of the doll. I learned that when I was actually dyeing it, and I had the doll sitting beside the bowl like an idiot, and I splashed the blue over on the doll skin. I had to clean that off. It did come off though. So I've got my little top knot up there to keep it away from the glue as I'm doing the rest of the wig. And basically using the same technique that I use on all my wigs when I do a wig cap, and that is to take little small pieces, sections of the fiber, and get it nice and combed out and straight. And then I usually cut off the end that I'm going to glue just to make sure that it's nice and even, and also it helps me to make sure that all the fibers get cut. And don't cut with your sewing scissors. Lara, what are you doing? Did we not learn last week from this? Anyway, use your hair cutting scissors because they have a little serrated edge and it keeps the hair from sliding around, and also saves your sewing scissors from cutting something that's not fabric and dull. So anyway, learned that lesson, and I changed my process later on. Going to put a little row of the E6000, and I always start at the back and at the bottom, and then I place the fiber down on top of it, and then using my thumb or my forefinger to press the glue up towards the crown, or press the fiber into the glue using a motion up towards the crown. So just making sure that all those fibers get wet with the glue. If you have to, you can always put a little more glue on top and press that into it just to make sure that it's glued down. And then same process I always use. I just go around in a circle and put fiber around the bottom edge. And then I just continue to do that in circles all the way up. And usually that ends up working pretty well. That's the process I've used a lot on the smaller dolls like Monster High. And with my Blythe dolls, I've been using wefts of mohair that come already sewed together. So all I do is I just have to glue the weft down, which is pretty nice. But try to find reasonably priced alpaca fiber in a weft is pretty difficult. I mean, this is about $20 worth of alpaca fiber here, and that's the rough kind that I have to clean and all that. And you end up losing a lot of it, you know, too. And I almost decided to not use this hair on the doll. I thought, well, it's not the color I want. It's actually not as long as I wanted. But, you know, $20 is $20. It's actually probably more than that now. I bought this a while back. And so I decided, well, I'll dye it. I'll dye it, you know, again and try to get a darker color. And instead of dyeing the locks separately, since I didn't really like the result, and it's difficult to dye it when it's loose, I decided to try to dye it after I have the wig made. Because the E6000 glue is waterproof, so it won't affect the glue. Now, if you use something like Elmer's or any kind of the white PVC glue, like Mod Podge or whatever, those are water soluble, and you'll probably loosen the glue and lose the hair. So just a tip on that if you're going to try to dye your hair after you've made the wig cap. All right, so I'll finish the first row around, and now I'm just going to start another row about a ½ inch above that, and we're just going to keep going until we get to the very top. And I do put that last circle around the part that I pulled through fairly close, but I try not to get the glue on that top knot that I pulled through, just because it ends up looking really bad if you do that. So we're just going to fast forward through all this, and I ended up doing some of it off camera because, like I said, I ended up doing this whole thing over a couple weeks. You know, we had a holiday in there, and I went to see my brother over in another part of Florida. And so had some travel time and broke up my normal weekly routine, and, you know, with also Christmas in there too. So anyway, ended up finishing this yesterday, and so I'm able to get it up hopefully this week. All right, so this is the end result. You see I've put glued pieces all the way up, and you can see the variation in the color. They didn't work well with the thread that I had wrapped around those bundles of hair, so that really wasn't a good way to dye the hair, unless you end up cutting that part off if you have enough. So I've opened up that top knot that I pulled through, and we had in the pipe cleaner, and I'm just going to comb that out with my pet grooming brush, and then we're going to spread that around. And I always, with my wigs, when I make them out of fiber like this, I'll hold on to the bottom of the hair while I'm combing it. I mean, the glue is really pretty strong, and you know, just it helps you to keep from pulling the fibers out, even though, you know, usually I think it holds enough that you probably could. I tend to comb my own hair this way, you know, start at the bottom, hold it, and just sort of protects stretching the hair. So you can see how I've sort of spread that around 360 degrees so that you've got some of that hair from the top not falling over, and then you have just sort of this little kind of hole in the middle up there that can act as sort of the top of the crown of the hair. And now I'm just trying to find the front. Her head kind of twisted around while I was working on her. So you can see there's the front, There's her face. And I had already decided that I wanted to give her bangs, so that's why I did the top knot the way I did with just the little hole. If I'd wanted to do a part, I would have made a slit instead of a hole, and you'd done it that way. And there, like I said, there's other videos of my wig making where I use that process depending on how I want the style of the wig to be. All right, so here's where the realization hits me. So there's a reason they make molds out of silicone. That's because nothing will stick to it. So this wig cap is made out of silicone. Well, right here I'm just pulling out some of the paper towel that got stuck to the glue, and that came off in the end. But as you can see, tell here, the wig detached, the glued part detached from the silicone wig cap. Now, if I'd known that was going to happen, I really thought about it. I don't know why I didn't take the measure to just go ahead and put glue all over that wig cap before I glued the hair down, because then it would have just made a wig cap out of glue, and I wouldn't have even needed that. But actually, there are some places here where the glue did not attach to the layer above or below it, and so it was like these rings of hair. So what am I going to do? Well, the first thing I want to do, I want to go ahead and dye this hair. And if you wanted to use the brush, you could. I'm not going to use the brush on this one just because it's kind of falling apart on me. But if you did, I think the easiest way to have done it would have been to lay it out with the crown up and then just sort of separate the top hair apart so you can get to the bottom pieces of hair. Excuse my dog's barking. Something, maybe a leaf fell outside or something, who knows. Anyway, get to the bottom layers, where you can make sure that all of the strands get colored, and then use your brush to, get in there and color that, and then do the next layer and the next layer and the next layer till you get to the top. I didn't want to deal with that since, like I said, the glue was coming apart from the silicone, so I'm going to use the watercolor technique again. And since this time I don't have the strings around it, I should be able to color all the strands and not have the problem of having those lighter pieces up at the top. So I squeezed about half of the bottle into the water, and then I stirred it up really good and mixed it up. I did use warm water with this, by the way, and it helps it mix up. And then we're just going to put the wig back down in here. There's nothing here that's affected by water, so it's okay to submerge it. But the alpaca fiber really, I think, resists accepting water just because of the oils in it. So you really have to kind of rub it between your fingers, get the bubbles out. Where there's a bubble, there's going to be lighter hair because it's not going to get there's air there, so it's not going to get the fluid. So after I soaked it for a while and tried rubbing the fibers together and felt like I had covered pretty much all the different areas, I pulled it out, laid it on a piece of aluminum foil, let it dry for a bit, and then I did take it in and just rinse the remaining color out in the sink. So here's what I ended up with. It's as you can see, it's darker. I've got that's the little top knot there where the hair comes out, and that's fine. The hair was darker on the ends. It accepted the dye better on the ends than it did at the top, which I'm not mad at. I mean, that's kind of a cool ombre look. Not really what I wanted originally when I thought about this doll, but hey, it's an adventure, right? Here we go. Now what I'm doing is separating a portion near the front so that I can cut the bangs. And I'm just trying to make sure that the hair that's coming from the top knot, I have enough in the front to come down over the bang part, but leave enough to come down over the sides that will be long as well. So you just kind of have to, play with it, see what you want. Now, as usual, I'm cutting it longer than I think it needs to be because I always say this, cut it longer. You can always go back and cut more, but you can't add the hair back after you've cut it. Because you don't know, sometimes when you cut it like this, the hair kind of, pulls up and then it's too short. So I originally thought I was going to maybe have it sort of angled down on the sides, going from, the short sides to a longer point, but that didn't work. Or after I cut it, I didn't think it would lay properly because the cut ends just look different than the ends that are natural. The ends that are natural kind of wispy looking. Now you do lose fiber with this. Doesn't matter what you do, you're going to lose fiber because of the nature of the way it's glued and everything. But I didn't think I don't think I lost a ton of fiber with this method. So kind of figure out how the hair is going to lay, and then I proceed to cut a little bit more off now that I know more about how the length I want it to be. So right there I was trying to angle it down, but after I did it, I really didn't think it looked that great. So what I'm doing now is just going back through, trimming up underneath there to help it lay better, combing out the hair. I ended up thinking that I think it would look better if those bangs were curled under instead of just laying flat, because they don't naturally curl under as I had thought they might. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and use my little curling iron and curl those under. But it takes a while to kind of keep, combing it, getting those long pieces out. I took a hair dryer to it here, and that was another huge adventure and mistake because it blowed all my little pieces of fiber all over the place. And my husband already thinks that this fiber is magical and just appears all over the house, and that just added to the magical drama. But this hair is so light and fluffy, it kind of floats and it attaches to your clothes, and then it's everywhere at some point, no matter what you try to do. So I'm really not happy. I'll say happy with how everything's turned out with this wig. I really kind of wanted it to be darker, really darker blue, more like my hair dryer there you see on the right. It's like that really dark blue. Maybe it would have been darker if I'd used the brush on technique, but I'm not sure, just because I don't know, having not tried it, if it's just the alpaca fiber accepting it. Like I said, the human hair does pretty good with that watercolor method. But anyway, so now I'm just kind of curling the ends of the wigs under, and I'm kind of just resolved to deal with this wig. So what I ended up doing was taking off the silicone cap, and I just glued the circles of hair to the doll's head. This is not a doll I'm going to sell because, like I said, it was a used pull-up, and there's some other issues with it that wouldn't do well. So here's how she looks with straight hair, and it's not bad. I don't hate it, but it just didn't turn out with the vision that I had. And then I curled it, and it's pretty cute. It'll work for this doll. I learned a lot of lessons. I can pass this on to you so you won't make the same mistakes. I make the mistakes so you don't have to, right? So don't try to glue to the silicone cap. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. That always helps. And I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas and are going to have the very, very best New Year. Our next video is going to be about making a costume for this doll. Probably, I don't know if we'll get to the wings, but we're going to try, and finishing up this project. I probably will do another pull-up doll, maybe use one of those make-it-on kits for you a little later on, but, there's always something coming. So make sure you subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.